The crash that nearly undid everything. There are few sights more shocking in modern cycling than seeing Jonas Vingegaard, the two-time Tour de France champion, the quiet Dane who rides with monk-like precision, sliding across the asphalt in the middle of a criterium. Yet that's exactly what happened. In the Japan Saitama Criterium 2025, which was supposed to be a race that would be light-hearted, or a light-hearted exhibition, as Jonas would call it, kind of like a post-season celebration or a chance for fans to cheer their heroes on, but instead, it turned out to be a moment that almost rewrote the entire narrative of Jonas's comeback year. So picture the scene. Saitama City, north of Tokyo. Crowds are packed around the barriers, waving flags and cameras. The smell of street food and the sound of cowbells mixing with the high-pitched whir of carbon wheels. The race was about 60 kilometers long and it was moving at lightning pace. Stars were at the front. Some big names were all present, smiling at the start line. But Jonas Vingegaard, as ever, wasn't there to just smile and wave. He was there to win. From the very first laps, it was clear that he wasn't treating this as an end-of-season party. He was locked in, tucked tight in the aero position, laser-focused. Every corner, every line was perfect. His Visma Lease bike jersey flashed past like a yellow comet. His cadence was smooth and his movements were calm. It was the look of a man who didn't forget Paris. He had forgotten how close he came to losing everything earlier this year when that horrific crash in the Basque country left him hospitalized and uncertain if he'd ever return to his peak. Then it happened. 3/4 into the race, while powering through a corner, Jonas's front wheel slipped. It was quick and almost imperceptible. One of those crashes that happen in an instant, but feel like they stretch out in slow motion. The crowd gasped as he hit the deck, his bike skidding across the tarmac. For a brief moment, it looked like the entire race, maybe even the months of training and recovery, had just gone up in smoke. But seconds later, he was back up. Mud on his shorts, a few scuffs on his arm, but the face was calm, stoic, and determined. Jonas remounted like a man possessed. No gesturing, no frustration, and no theatrics. Just pure focus. After the race, he told reporters what happened in his typically understated way. "Luckily, I didn't hurt myself and I just slipped. I just lost the wheel and luckily nothing happened. Then I came back and win." It's a very Jonas Vingegaard kind of quote. The kind where he describes even that had thousands of fans holding their breath as if it were just a mild inconvenience. Like he'd dropped his phone or not slid out of a 45 km/h in front of an intentional audience. But behind that calm there was relief. Enormous relief. Because this was the kind of crash that, in a worst-case scenario, could have wiped out months of carefully planned recovery work. Jonas himself admitted as much later, reflecting on the dialectic balance has been managing since his last April accident, or the year before that. Quote, "You never really know when you have a bad crash like that, if you will get back to the same level that you had before." That's core of the memory, and the miracle of today's race. He didn't just back up, he got up and won. How Vingegaard still won. After the crash, the logical expectation would have been for Jonas to fade out of contention. In criteriums, once you hit the deck, it's over. The peloton doesn't wait, the speed is relentless, every corner punishes you. But somehow, Vingegaard turned disaster into destiny. Let's break it down. When Jonas fell, he was positioned towards the front of the race, marking a small breakaway that had formed mid-race. After the crash, he remounted quickly and immediately started chasing. You could almost see the computer inside his head recalculating the new plan in real time. Forget the podium, just get back to the group. That was step one. He later explained it perfectly himself. At first, you only think about getting back to the bunch. Then there was an attack that I could follow. And then luckily, I could go solo from there, he said. That single quote sums up the difference between Jonas Vingegaard and frankly, almost every other rider in the world. Most cyclists after a crash spend the next 10 minutes in panic, checking for damage, wondering what went wrong. Jonas, he instantly flipped into competitive mode. Within moments he was calculating time gaps, drafting behind motos, and gauging the wind direction. And then came the counter-attack. With 15 laps to go, he caught the bunch. With 10 laps to go, he launched again. This time on the offensive. He bridged the leaders, caught them, and then, in a move that made fans audibly gasp, he dropped them solo. A lone yellow jersey and a sea of blue and white banners, slicing through corners with surgical precision. The same corners that had just betrayed him minutes earlier. By the final lap, the race was his. The crowd roared as he raised one arm across the line, understated, almost shy, but full of meaning. After all, this wasn't just a victory in a criterium, this was kind of like a symbolic moment. A symbolic destruction of the doubts that had haunted his entire year. So it's hard to overstate how physically demanding that comeback was. Criterium speeds hover around 45 to 50 kilometers an hour with constant accelerations out of every corner, maybe 200 to 300 watt spikes, dozens of times per lap. Now imagine doing this while still carrying the adrenaline and muscle tension from a crash. The effort that he put in to claw back the field alone probably cost him 10 to 15 minutes of near threshold power. And yet, Jonas didn't falter. His power data isn't public, but anyone who's followed his numbers from the Tour can make an educated guess. We're talking about 6.2 watts per kilo for sustained efforts, maybe spikes of 1,000 watts during the rejoin phase. That's alien territory, the kind of output that you'd expect from someone operating on a physiological level most of us can't even comprehend. That's why the victory mattered. Not because it added another trophy to his cabinet, but because it showed that his confidence, his instincts, and his legs are back. The symbolism is powerful. Earlier this year, when he crashed in the Basque Country, or actually last year, I correct myself, Jonas's injuries were severe, broken ribs, a collapsed lung, and weeks in hospital. At the time, there were whispers. Could this be it? Could this be the moment the mighty Dane fades into retirement? Fast forward to November, and he's in Japan, brushing off a fall and winning against the world's best riders. The contrast couldn't be any sharper. It's a kind of comeback arc that Hollywood would reject for being too realistic. The comeback of a champion. If there's one thing that defines Jonas Vingegaard, it's his relationship with adversity. He doesn't boast, he doesn't seek attention, but every time life knocks him down, he rebuilds himself stronger. In his post-race comments, Jonas opened up more than usual about what the last few months have been like mentally. He said, "It's only by the end of this year that I can see that I'm able to push in the same way that I was before my crash." That's a powerful admission. He's essentially saying, it took me almost the entire season to feel normal again. And yet, he never rushed. While other riders were posting power data on Strava or hyping their training camps, Jonas was quietly rebuilding, focusing on fundamentals, lung capacity, core stability, muscle symmetry. His team carefully monitored his workload, gradually pushing him from light endurance rides to high-intensity intervals and finally to racing. The fact that this criterium, a race meant to be relaxed, became his unofficial test event says everything about how he operates. For Jonas, even an exhibition is an opportunity to measure himself. And what do we see today? Well, not just the physical strength, but the mental dominance. He hit the ground, stood up, and turned panic into performance. That ability, that cold focus, is what separates champions from mortals. Tadej Pogačar might have the raw brilliance and flair, but Vingegaard's strength lies in that robotic calm, a kind of emotional resilience forged in the silence of countless winter rides through Denmark's windswept landscapes. To fully appreciate what he did in Saitama, you have to understand how much could have gone wrong. If he had crashed just a little harder, if his hand had hit the ground at the wrong angle, if his knee had twisted awkwardly, it could have been another multi-month recovery. The margins in professional cycling are terrifyingly thin. Instead, Jonas emerged from the chaos unscathed, as if fate itself decided to give him a pass this time. What do you guys think? Was he lucky, or is he simply trained to crash well, as some of the riders are? Thank you for watching today's video. If you're new here, please subscribe to the channel, as I upload every single day all of the latest cycling news, cycling drama, and cycling results. Also, leave a like on today's video for good luck, and feel free to comment down below your opinions beneath this video.